Player ratings then: Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, Everton 2 at Molineux Stadium. What a fantastic result that was. Wasn't always the best performance, wasn't a brilliant one to watch, obviously, because we had no strikers on the pitch, but doesn't matter. Ultimately, we got the 3 points. A fantastic win, given very difficult circumstances, with arguably two of our most creative players, well, definitely two of our most creative players out injured. So let's get straight into it. Jordan Pickford, I've given him an 8. Quite solid today, to be perfectly honest with you. He didn't really have anything to do, did he? I don't think he was in fault for the goal, to be honest. Not that I've watched it back a number of times, but I think the goal was just defensively quite poor, to be honest. An easy ball into the box, and it was met by a Ruben Neves who's very good in those circumstances, completely unmarked. I just think everybody sort of got thrown towards the ball. Everybody got thrown towards the cross, and nobody got thrown towards the player who was stood in the box with nobody around him, and he finished quite easily. But I don't think that was down to Jordan. Not that he had an awful lot to do for the remainder of the game, to be perfectly honest with you. He did make a couple of mad dives, which I think were just for the cameras and so that he could get a nice couple of pictures for his collection. But again, quite solid, didn't do anything wrong, and therefore he's getting an 8. Ben Godfrey then starting at left back today, of course. Luca Dean playing in a more advanced left midfield role. Ben Godfrey's getting an 8.5. Very solid. Did get caught out a couple of times, and of course, you know, that ball coming in for their goal was ultimately he was caught out there as well. But I think overall for pretty much the entire 95 minutes, he was very solid. A couple of really good interceptions as well when Wolves are sort of playing balls in behind, and he's needed to sort of put his foot on the accelerator a little bit. He's got there well ahead of, I think, Neto on one occasion and Fabio Silva on another occasion. He was just very solid defensively, brought us out well, defended really well when the ball come at him, and like I said, he made a couple of really good recoveries, so he's getting an 8.5. Michael Keane's getting a 9.5. Now, this would have been a 10 if it wasn't for the goal that we conceded, to be honest. I don't think the goal was all Michael Keane's fault, but he's part of a defence that allowed such a silly and a goal that ultimately we didn't need to concede. It would have been a little bit more switched on. But for the remainder of the game, he was absolutely outstanding. Everything that come into him, he dealt with. His heading was fantastic. His play on the ball was brilliant. He was just absolutely brilliant today, Michael Keane. And not only that, he got the winning goal, a brilliant ball in by Andre Gomez, and a fantastic bullet header by Michael Keane. And you can't really ask for much more from Michael Keane, can you? Again, like I said, he would have got a 10 if it wasn't for that goal that we conceded, and you might think, oh, you're a bit harsh given that, but ultimately, I think he was very solid. An absolute colossus in the middle of the park. Defended everything that come in to him, especially in that last sort of 5 or 10 minutes when we were put under a little bit of pressure by Wolves. He was excellent, and the goal that he scored is just absolutely brilliant. I love Michael Keane. I absolutely love Michael Keane. I think he's an excellent footballer. I think he's absolutely brilliant. The improvement that we've seen from Michael Keane in the last 12 months at Everton is just astronomical. He has been unbelievable, and again today he was very good. Like I said, near perfect performance, and topped it off with a winning goal. Yerry Mina next to him, have given him a 9. Again, another very solid performance other than the goal. Very similar with Yerry Mina. Brilliant throughout the rest of the game. Everything that come towards him he dealt with. Absolute monster in the air as well. Again, there was a couple of times that Wolves tried to sort of float balls into the box, and they just had no luck with it. Wolves are on a massive side anyway. They're on a tall side, but even if they were a tall side, I don't think they were getting anywhere near their chances today getting thrown into the box, because Yerry Mina and Michael Keane were just on absolutely brilliant form, and Yerry Mina was fantastic today. Again, come under a lot of stick recently in terms of, is he consistent enough, this, that, the other. I can't remember the last really bad Yerry Mina performance I've seen. Yes, he hasn't been great in certain games, but today he was very solid. Again, every ball that come in he dealt with, and every time he was sort of put under a little bit of pressure, certainly with the ball at his feet, he either got rid of it or he brought it out or he passed it into the midfield. I just think he was really solid today. So Yerry Mina's getting a 9. Mason Holgate's getting an 8. Another very solid performance at right back from Mason Holgate, who of course started the game ahead of Seamus Coleman. There was a couple of situations where he maybe got caught a little bit out of position. He put in a rash challenge as well at one point because he was caught out of position. But other than that, I thought he was quite solid, to be honest with you. I did think he was quite solid. There was a lot that come down that right-hand side, but nothing really was made of it. And I think Mason done a solid job of you know, keeping his place at right back. And ultimately, that back line of Mina, Keane, Godfrey and you know, Mina, Keane, Godfrey and Mason Holgate again has gone out there and put in a real solid defensive performance that's ultimately won us another very tough game of football in very difficult circumstances. So he's getting an 8 into the midfield. Then Adelaide, the corner, I've given him a 7.5. I think he was okay today. I do think he was okay. He wasn't as involved in the game as I would have liked, but that's understandable given the fact that, you know, we didn't really have much going forward and James was dropping into a central midfield position. Adelaide Decore was sort of there to just run around and pick up the bits. He did show his, you know, ultimately his physicality and his stature in the middle of the park, coming forward and bringing the ball forward and sweeping up. But ultimately, I don't think he was massively involved today, but he done well whenever he had the ball. Tom Davies, I've given him a 7. Probably going to, you know, a lot of people are probably going to disagree with that, to be honest. There was a lot of stick for Tom Davies on Twitter. And look, it's understandable. He does get bypassed far too easily. There was far too many times where Wolves just simply bypassed our midfield. And Tom Davies just allowed 2 or 3 Wolves players to just move past him with ease instead of putting a foot in, instead of making a challenge. But on the ball, I think he was decent. I honestly do think he was decent. I think he won all of his duels in the first half, which is more than any other player. He brought it out a couple of times. Listen, we've got what we've got with Tom Davies. You know, ultimately, whilst Alan isn't in this side and whilst Gylfi Sigurdsson's playing up front, as is James Rodriguez, we always knew it was going to be Tom Davies starting, especially with Ben Godfrey playing left back and Mason Holgate playing right back. So we've got what we've got. Was it an unbelievable performance tonight? No, but we're probably not going to get many unbelievable performances from Tom Davies because he's not an unbelievable footballer, but he stepped in and he done an alright job. Yes, he was bypassed a couple of times. Yes, it was far too easily. Yes, that wouldn't have happened if Alan's on the pitch, but that's because Alan is a much better footballer than Tom Davies. But I actually thought Tom done okay. So he's getting a 7. Luca Dean's getting a 9. He's getting a 9. Even a Luca Dean, who you can tell still isn't 100% fit and still needs a couple of more games to get back to that level of fitness that, you know, he's able to go week in, week out. Even a 80-90% fit Luca Dean is still the best left back in the country by quite some distance. He was fantastic again today, and we see within the first 8 or 9 minutes of the game what we've missed from Luca Dean practically. It mightn't have even been that long into the game. It might have been in the first 5 or 6 minutes how badly we've missed Luca Dean. Obviously played in that more of an attacking role today with Ben Godfrey playing left back, and it's something that's been spoken about briefly but not an awful lot in terms of having Ben Godfrey as the left back because he's the more solid defensive option, and instead of just losing Luca Dean's creativity there, push him forward a bit. Certainly in this game when we knew Dominic Calvert-Lewin wasn't going to be fit, and it was either going to be Dean playing as the winger because Richarlison isn't fit, or Dean playing as the winger and Richarlison playing up front. Carlo went with it, which I was surprised by, to be honest. I didn't think Carlo would go with it, but he did, and it paid off. Luca Dean today put about 4 or 5 really menacing balls into the box. Obviously gets the assist for the first goal, which is a fantastic ball into Alex Iwobi's feet, and Alex Iwobi finishes fantastically. But he put in another 2 or 3 really menacing crosses, and it was the fact that we didn't have a natural centre forward playing. James isn't going to make those bursting runs to get on the end of balls because he's not a striker. Gylfi Sigurdsson, very same, he ain't going to do that either. And I can't help but feel if Dominic Calvert-Lewin's on that pitch today, Luca Dean probably gets another 2 or 3 assists and we win that game, you know, comfortably. But ultimately we didn't have a striker, so Luca Dean was playing the ball into the box, you know, to nobody on many of an occasion, but he was still absolutely fantastic going forward, so he's getting a 9. Alex Iwobi then, going to give him a 9 as well. Really impressed. Did tail off in the second half. You might think these scores are a little bit too high, considering it wasn't a fantastic game of football, but I just think the way in which we managed to get a result was brilliant today, given the circumstance of not having a striker on the pitch. And Alex Iwobi, like I said, I think his goal today really shows the improvements that he's been making. He started off himself by passing it to James. James plays that ball over to Luca Dean, which we've spoken about so many times recently that we've missed when Luca Dean isn't in the team. Luca Dean cuts it across. Alex Iwobi's continued his run, and it's a brilliant finish. The commentators start to blag, oh, it must, Alan Smith, hates us, doesn't he? Alan Smith absolutely despises us. Either that or his wife's a Wolves fan or something, I don't know. But he despises us, trying to blag that the ball took a deflection. Didn't take any deflection. It's a perfectly weighted finish right into the bottom corner. It's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic by Alex Iwobi. Yes, he wasn't massively in the game from that point onwards, but he still was picking the ball up. He was still running at players. He was still getting in good areas. He was still, a threat ultimately to Wolves, and I think he's improving week in, week out, and he deserves that goal. It was a fantastic finish. Gylfi Sigurdsson then, I've given him a 6. Now, you might think this is a little bit harsh. Listen, he worked hard. He did work hard, and ultimately, you'll probably think, well, given the rating you've given James in a moment, it's unfair to give Gylfi Sigurdsson a 6, but I just don't think he was in the game whatsoever. Certainly not in the position that he was... he was ultimately started in. And again, look, it's an unnatural position for Gylfi Sigurdsson. So I don't massively blame him for not being in the game, but he wasn't making those runs in behind. He wasn't a threat with crosses coming into the box. He struggled. Ultimately, he struggled, and that's understandable. I'm not going to sit here and rip Gylfi Sigurdsson. He was a midfield player who's played defensive midfield more often than he's played in an attacking sort of forward role, playing up front today. So I just don't think he was on the ball whatsoever. Worked hard, but again, didn't have anything in the game. And then James, have given him an 8.5, and that's simply because, again, similar to Gylfi Sigurdsson, if you're asking me to rate James on his ability as a striker today, I don't think you can give him a rating because he wasn't a striker. He simply wasn't a striker. He was playing there and he defaulted to that position when we didn't have the ball. But ultimately, not even when we didn't have the ball, he defaulted to that position a couple of times during the game. But most of the time he was coming deep to pick the ball up because that's what James Rodriguez does. James Rodriguez can start in goal. He ain't going to play in goal. He's going to come up to try and pick the ball up. No matter where he plays, he ain't going to stick to that position. And that's what we have to accept with James Rodriguez. And the first goal showed that that's what you get with James Rodriguez. He also played a fantastic ball into Alex Iwobi just after it went to 1-1, I think, and Alex Iwobi had the chance to make it 2-1, and he puts a shot right at the goalkeeper. That's what you have to accept with James, is wherever he plays, he ain't going to stick to that position. He's going to move around. He's a free player. He's given a free role in every game because of the quality that he has. We've seen that in the first 10 minutes. He picks the ball up. It's a brilliantly weighted ball to Luca Dean, plays it down, and Iwobi comes on and scores the opening goal. And like I said, again, I think we've seen his quality today. We've seen his creativity. He was kicked up and down the park again. He won a couple of fouls. He brought us forward. It was a really professional performance by James Rodriguez today, to be perfectly honest with you. And given he had nobody really to create for, given the fact that he was meant to be the player who's on the end of his creativity, if that makes sense, I thought he done really well. So I've given him an 8.5. Onto the bench then, Andre Gomes getting a 7.5. Completely wiped my eye. You can probably go and look at a tweet of me saying, what's the point in bringing Andre Gomes on here? He's like for Davis, and he ain't going to do anything. 5 minutes later, ball comes out to him. He puts a worldy cross into the box, and Michael Keane gets on the end of it, and ultimately we win the game from that. Not only that, I thought he was very, very solid in winning the ball, but he gave it away a couple of times, which is frustrating. He gave a stupid free kick away as well towards the end of the game, which is frustrating, but he done all right. Not only the cross, which was exceptional, which I've just said, but he won a couple of fouls, he won the ball back, he used his body, and that's what Andre Gomes will give you. I don't want Andre Gomes starting for Everton because I don't think he offers enough from the start. He hasn't got enough energy, but coming on in the last 20 minutes against sides that are tired, that are desperate for a goal, that are desperate to try and create something, and just sitting him in that midfield to disrupt the opposition play completely by making fouls in areas that you can afford to, by winning the ball back, by using his body, by keeping it in the corner. That's the perfect role for Andre Gomes for me. He mightn't like it because he's not starting, but that is the absolute perfect role for Andre Gomes for me. Coming on in the last 20 minutes and just killing a game off. And I thought he done really well at doing that today. Richarlison then, I've given him a 7. Again, it's quite similar really. Had a chance, which is very frustrating, to come on and score, obviously, when he got the ball to the edge of the box. And, ultimately, he probably should have done better with it. But again, won a couple of decent fouls for us in decent areas. Wasn't on for very long, to be fair, so you can't really give him a big rating. But he done okay. And again, I think when Richarlison's fully fit, we'll really start to see the player that we know and love again. And then Seamus Coleman, I've given him a 7. Just solidified things, didn't he? I don't think he touched the ball more than a couple of times, but solidified everything. allowed the defence to have another defender in there, and ultimately allowed Mason Holgate to sort of adopt that natural sort of centre-back, sort of right-back position, but no, he's got that cover of Seamus Coleman there. So there you go. They are the player ratings. A fantastic, fantastic win. It wasn't a brilliant game in any circumstance, in any stretch of the imagination, but it was always going to be difficult because we were playing with no striker. And to say we've come away with the win, that's massive. That's absolutely massive. Big, big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Get in, live game review tomorrow around about 4:15 p.m. So don't forget to check that one out. Massive, massive thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.